This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, this is Bill O'Brien, 9th District Councilman and Chairman of the Board of Ed Liaison Committee meeting. Today is May 19th, 2021, and this is a regularly scheduled meeting. And can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting that was held on April 21st, 2021?
Laura Danchow, motion to approve.
Second.
Karen Rodia.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously, whatever number we have, Carol.
Yes.
Now the CLA, the audit report follow-up will have to be tabled because the, I forget his name at the moment, was not available.
Oh,
It was Bill. It's Jeff Ziplow.
Oh, Jeff, you're here?
no.
No, this is Timyak telling you his name.
Oh, okay. Oh, thanks. That's right, Jeff. Okay. Yeah, so we'll
You need
have
a motion to table?
yes, please.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
This is nothing to discuss about it, right? So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And passes unanimously. So that brings Janet up to bat.
Okay, thank you. Top of our plate right now are plans for summer school. You know, we have allowed all of our students to come back in. We have majority of the students at the elementary, vast majority of the elementary students back in. High school is the area where we don't have as many. High school kids figured out early on that if they were in school and got exposed, they would be quarantined and therefore couldn't play their sports or their activities, band, whatever. And so they chose to go to remote learning to protect themselves. That hasn't worked well for a lot of them, but nonetheless, we have mainly the kids out are high school kids. We have set a notice home letting all families know that next year we will be all in, that there will not be a remote option. It is no longer required for next year by the governor. So we're looking forward to having as close to normal kind of schooling as we possibly can get. We're looking forward to that. I was over at Nichols School this morning as the kids were getting off the bus, bounding off the buses. I mean, literally bounding off the buses, as only elementary kids can do. Happy as can be in school. It was just joyful to see the kids being in school, looking forward to it. It's a really nice atmosphere over there. So, you know, it's time for us to get back to all we can do. The governor's orders still allow for mitigations in schools. So anyone who enters is still must wear a mask. So all of our teachers will continue with masks. All students will continue with masks. Anyone who enters for a meeting or anything else will still have to wear masks, regardless of whether or not they have been vaccinated, because we're allowed to do that. We've got to keep those mitigations in place. Our youngest students are not able to get vaccinations at this point. We have a high rate of vaccination of our 16 above, and we have 2 clinics this week for 16 above and then for 12 above, and those clinics are filled. And as a matter of fact, they're opening up some extra sections for those clinics. So we're really pleased that our kids are anxious to get vaccinated. That's a game changer for us. We're keeping our fingers crossed that our younger kids will be able to be vaccinated by fall. That will make a great difference for our families. In the meantime, we're also working on our schedule for our summer school. The summer school is really based on a STEAM concept, which is STEM plus art and music, and a lot of hands-on activities. It will be 2 two-week sessions. We have partnered with the Y so that in the after they'll attend their sessions. It's not going to be sitting at desks in the classroom. They're going to be active. They're going to be doing robotics. They'll be doing different Lego experiments. They will be doing some science activities. And like I said, art and music. They'll get their lunches at lunchtime, and then the Y will come in there for afternoon activities. We're using the grant funds to pay for our summer school. We do have a number of high school students who did not pass classes, particularly ninth graders. So we are doing credit recovery at the high school level, hoping to get some of those kids a little closer to meeting their timelines for ultimately being on time to graduate. So, and that sign up is going well too. A lot of students are participating. Our sign up for all summer school activities is pretty full. So those are the things we have going right now, and be happy to take any questions.
Janet, this is Bill. How's it going with the staffing for this summer?
Well, it was very slow. I think teachers are exhausted.
Yeah.
And needed a break, so it went rather slowly. And we did open it up to people who've been student teachers with us who are very anxious for the work, and so and they will do fine. We've had a good crop of student teachers, and so a student teacher with some veteran teachers supervising, it will work.
I would think now with this hotter weather, it's going to be difficult with the mask for everybody. Probably more so for the adults than the kids.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of the classes, if they're indoors, are going to be in the buildings that are air conditioned. Otherwise, they're outside. If we need to bring in tents, we'll do that too. But I think the air conditioned buildings make a big difference for them.
And then Karen, before one more question about how's it look for the high school graduations as far as the most of the kids going to be able to graduate? I know it's such a tough year.
It's been a tough year, and there are probably a few who won't quite make that bar, but most of them, we've had tutoring in, the tutoring centers at each of the schools, the kids have really been taken advantage of. Coming in, trying to get caught up. You know what's really going on, but Bill, is it was getting work turned in. It's not like there was no learning taking place. It was the discipline of getting the work done and getting it turned in. So the tutors are working with these kids to get things made up. The teachers are willing to accept late assignments. We're trying to do everything we can to catch these kids up, because if the ninth grader gets behind, they've already set themselves on a path for not making graduation, especially since we have additional graduation requirements. So we're really putting a lot of emphasis this. But for the graduates, the senior class is doing okay. They're doing fine. Every year, we always have a few that barely make it by the skin of their teeth, and they're in the same boat this year. Graduation will be a full graduation outside. They'll be separated, socially distanced, but with the new guidelines and the support of the Stratford Health Department, which, by the way, I can't say enough about. They're wonderful. We have moved toward a plan for a full graduation.
Thanks. Okay, Karen, I saw your hand up.
Thank you, Bill. Janet, with regard to the summer school and the masks, there's this item that's called a turtle that can be put under masks. Is it possible that we can obtain those through the ESSER funds for the students and the staff? I think that it would be really beneficial for them.
Yes, Karen, I just saw that, as a matter of fact, just like a day ago. And so we'll take a look at those. It says it's supposed to be more comfortable and give a little more airflow. So
it's a basket, and it raises the mask away from the skin to allow you to breathe in and out without you feeling like the suffocation. And the people that have them seem to really like them. They're hard to get though, and so you need to find. I mean, I know that For Ocean company makes them. That's one of the companies that has them. And if you can find a storefront or whatever that carries their bracelets, they might be able to get the baskets. You know, I mean, I don't know if Howard Aspinwall can help with that, but, you know, depending on how many you need, but that would be, I think that would be really beneficial for students and staff, and especially for staff because they can use it, it's washable, you know, it's because it's plastic, but they can use it during the fall and winter, et cetera. So.
Right. Yeah, they usually will send me samples. Most producers will send me samples so we can look at them and see how they work with our kids and go from there. But yes, I just learned of those, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Laura, did I see you indicate you wanted to ask a question?
I was coughing because I'm recovering from a cold, but I do have a question.
Oh, get better.
Yeah, this is nobody wants to be around someone coughing, even if with a regular cold now. But I just have a question on the summer school for Janet. What do you know what schools they're going to be held at, and is it one school or like all the grades at different schools?
The majority of the elementary are going to be at, you know, Franklin and Johnson Soto. We have really worked to have the teachers recommend those students who are in greatest need first, and that has really filled the slots for us. So that's where we'll be, and the kids will get lunch, and then they'll be turned over to the Y for the afternoon.
Nice. Is Franklin air conditioned?
Yes, part of it is.
Part of it is. Okay, I don't recall that being. All right, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? If not, thanks, Janet. We'll go on to Pam.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Pam.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to bring you up to date on a couple of items. First, it's with regard to our current operating budget for fiscal year 21. We continue to closely monitor all the areas of the budget. Our special education costs, as I've reported to you each and every month, continue to increase, and they have far exceeded our budget projections. At this point, we're close to $1 million in deficit. We continue, however, to have some savings in transportation, salaries, and substitute line items that will certainly help to offset this deficit. Overall, there's a number of variables that we're still closely watching that will affect the budget over the remaining couple of months of the school year. And now that we're at a 5-day-a-week schedule, of course, our costs and needs are being adjusted as well. So we'll continue to monitor them and report them accordingly. The other item I wanted to bring everyone up to date on, of course, are the grants updates. The district submitted its ESSER 2 grant application to the state on April 19th. We have received requests for a significant amount of detail pertaining to our request, and we're working to provide that information. So we don't have approval yet, and we are hopeful that we will get approval on our request sometime in early June. The ESSER grant award was shared with districts recently, and the grant entitlement for Stratford is $13,622,647. The district administration has been working on a spending plan for a while, and of course we couldn't really move forward until we had some real guidance, which is just starting to come in. But the one thing that is our current focus right now is the ARP-ESSER is much stricter in monitoring how we are utilizing these funds. They are requiring a reopening plan, which I was involved in a meeting on Monday and Wednesday with some fellow administrators to put this together. And it has to be published on our website by June 23rd. And it is an overview of how the district plans to reopen. From there, we do have to have we have to receive community input on that plan even prior to June 23rd. But then subsequent to that date, we have to get further input from stakeholders on the entire grant plan, how we are planning on utilizing these funds. So obviously town leaders both on the town side and the board side, will be continuously brought up to date on the plans for that. We are a little bit concerned in that it is requiring, for example, 20% of it has to be spent specifically on student supports, and that doesn't include what we have to spend on social and emotional and a lot of other buckets. What it actually states is that our ESSER, unlike the other two ESSER grants, is requiring the school districts to create plans that focus on renewal, reducing opportunity gaps, accelerating learning, and advancing equity for all students. This application, as I said, is due in August, so we have our work cut out for us over the next few months. Of course, it's an important source of funding, so we're being very careful as we work through the process. The other issue is kind of something I wanted to mention and ask at the same time, and it's with regard to the fiscal year 22 budget. I did note that the town council recently voted to extend the deadline for adopting that budget to June 30th. Obviously, that can be a little bit problematic for the board to finalize its budget and to also address the staffing issues involved with the budget that they've put forward. So we're just curious if the council had any idea when they may actually approve a budget, if they're really looking to extend it that long, or if they think it might be finalized sometime by mid-June. I don't know if you have any input you can provide.
Well, I would say that I don't think we plan to wait that long to the end of June.
That's good to hear, Bill.
I don't know if we have an exact date yet. I think it's still being worked out, but I would hope maybe early June. Karen?
How can you extend that when it's by charter that you have to have an approval date? You can't do that.
The governor did it.
Yeah, it was the governor.
Oh, it's through the governor's office?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the governor
Karen,
extended it to June 30th. It doesn't mean you have to wait till June 30th. It's before June 30th.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the main reason was because we were still waiting for the guidelines from the federal government on all the money they were sending our way.
We
Chris,
can
would you say,
completely understand that.
Chris Timniak, can you add
Chris.
anything?
Yeah, yes, Chairman. Karen, the extension was for exactly the reason Bill said. We were waiting to get the guidelines from the federal government. The governor gave all municipalities an extra time to do that. We had our town attorneys put a legal opinion out to all the council members for the last meeting, highlighting exactly it and how this overrode the charter, so that we were 100% in compliance. We looked at it through and through, and we're also getting more and more indications on what the state's doing with their budget too. So it did buy us some time. Bill's exactly right. This is not going to go to June 30th.
Okay. Thank you so much.
That was the date the governor. That was the last date the governor said you could do it. But it's not going to go to June 30th.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. And the last thing I just wanted to make a bit of a plea. I know that the non-lapsing fund, now that it is established and the town's audit has been received, John Savo did reach out to us to discuss a bit about the funding that we felt we would need or would like to see appropriated to that fund. And I would just like to share with the members of this committee that it's really important that you consider a full appropriation of our carryover from fiscal year 20. And I mention that for a couple of reasons. As you will recall, there was some miscommunication last year when the board finalized its fiscal year 21 budget. It was my first day on the job, and did attend the meeting that evening, but it was just a little bit of miscommunication. But it did result in the board having to reduce instructional supplies and textbooks and a number of other accounts for a total of over $500,000. So it's been a little bit slim pickings for the instructional supply accounts for the schools. However, we have had a lot of downtime. So while it's definitely starting to be felt, it wasn't as problematic as it could have been. In addition, I would like to try to explain the need for some kind of a safety net. And the safety net that I see an education reserve fund for, primarily it's for exactly the reasons the council established it, meaning special education costs, which we all know are kind of a wild card in every school budget throughout the state. As a result of the way the town actually handles the excess cost grant, it's a little bit unique. There really isn't an opportunity for the extra dollars that sometimes are received through the state because of additional high cost students for that money to filter to the district. And I just get very concerned because last year and this year, quite frankly, the pandemic has really saved us financially with all the shutdowns, the savings in transportation and staffing. I honestly feel had we not experienced a pandemic, had we not had the shutdowns and those savings, the board's budget very well could have ended up in the red. And I know it's our responsibility to do everything we possibly can to prevent that. But oftentimes you have the movement of additional students and costs in January and February. And as you work through that and realize that you're not going to be able to absorb those additional costs, it's actually very late in the fiscal year to find significant savings within your budget. So we would have to have gone or come to the town council for a supplemental appropriation, which nobody likes to have to ask for nor have to provide. So I'm just asking you to please really consider that full appropriation, because I think it's very important that the town and the board work together to set up protection against budgetary issues like this. And I really do feel that an adequately funded reserve, such as, you took the right steps setting one up, would benefit both the town and the board going forward. I mean, obviously, the board would be very careful about how it spent those funds. And of course, it has to be approved by the town. And I think the areas that you highlighted for expenditures are very much on target, being computers and one-time out of the ordinary costs and special education. And special education is what I think troubles me the most, again, because it's so unpredictable and it really has such a strong impact. So I thought I'd take this opportunity this evening just to give you my perspective and why I am kind of pushing for that. So I thank you.
Bill,
Thanks, Pam.
That's my report.
this is Janet. May I just make one
Sure.
addition to that?
Okay.
Our special ed director has informed us that we have received 154 new students that are special ed students. You know how the houses are selling in Stratford and people are moving from New York? They're bringing their children. So 154 new students requiring special ed services that were not budgeted for. And this is what Pam's talking about. We have to have some kind of safety valve for the kind of expenditures. By the way, it's not just Stratford, it's Connecticut is feeling this, but we're worried about Stratford. We want to make sure that we don't end up having to come back to the council and say, hey, we can't get through this year. We've got so many special ed kids that we can't do this. And that's an unfunded mandate. The federal government has never funded it to the promise they made when they set up the law. And we don't begrudge the services. The kids need the services, but we do need to be funded for those. And that's where the problem lies.
But Janet, you brought us something. I was going to ask the question about that. How many new students we're seeing from all these home sales, but do we also have a breakdown of how many are moving out? I don't know if the people selling are mostly families or if they're mostly people with their grown kids. Do we have any numbers?
I don't have the final numbers. What I will tell you is that there are a lot of older people that are selling their homes. So they're not in the school system. But what we are seeing is kids who need more services moving in. And that's the bottom line for us. But I will have some kind of breakdown for you in the future in terms of who's in and who's out.
Thanks. And then, Pam, I wanted to ask too about the Sodexo situation. Is that getting worked out?
We're trying, Bill. It's a significant deficit right now. It's up to $1.5 million, which is a real concern. We're working. I have meetings every 2 to 3 weeks with Sodexo, and they really are trying to be good partners. They adjusted our fee structure, which did reduce our annual fee, but on a monthly basis. We are hoping that if the trend continues over the next month, I do plan to ask the board to utilize some of our projected year-end balance to pay some of that deficit. And we've been told that ESSER 2 potentially could assist somewhat with deficit, but we can't get clarification yet on how we need to actually calculate that, because it's a little tricky and we're getting, once again, different messages. So we're looking into that. I don't see it being a significant amount, but even if we could somehow or other manage 300,000 or so from that to pay it down. So it's constantly on my mind, to be perfectly honest. But I am trying really hard to work with Sodexo and to figure out how to get us out of this so we can move forward. We do have to go out to bid next year. And by doing that and having a deficit is really not the best way to approach this. So we are working on it, and hopefully we will start the new year with a much lower dollar amount.
Well, I wish I thought of it sooner. The president was in the state today. Maybe we could have reached out to him and said, help.
I wish you had thought of that.
Anybody have questions for Pam? Laura, maybe you want to send them in writing since you're losing your voice.
And I just, my whole body hurts me right now. So I don't envy the position you're in right now, Pam. I understand that there's a lot of issues. Sounds to me like special ed really isn't a wild card. It's just wild, and something that's going to be a constant, probably priority number one, followed by Sodexo. The town, what we're trying to do is whatever we can to help out as far as the revolving fund and the money that's coming in. And all I can say is just gotta be patient, and hopefully we'll move in the right direction eventually. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I will say that Chris and Dawn have been wonderful partners. So I do appreciate the support. Thank you.
Well, that's really good to hear, because I think that's something we've been trying to, get to that point where it didn't happen as much in the past as we would have liked. So thanks for all the cooperation, everybody.
Thank you.
If there's nobody else, I guess we'll go on to the Stratford High renovation. I don't know if you have any update, Janet, or Chris, do you sit on that committee?
No, Chris
No.
is not. No, we basically the meetings at this point are finalizing, the change orders, little things that have to be done, things that are on the punch list of every new building, and of course issues around the field, and that's in another area. We don't even discuss that right now because it's gone to a legal level, so we don't even discuss that because of the legal involvement. The things around the smells that have been in the science labs and other kinds of things. Numerous remedies have been utilized, and we've seen some improvement. We're going to still hold people's feet to the fire and finding out what the cause of those things are. All in all, it's a beautiful building, and come fall, we will be able to open up that front entrance for the community to come in to see plays or musical performances. and have the kids run a bistro there for people coming in. So I think that the community is going to enjoy this facility.
I personally think that what was done in the old section is, to me, more impressive than the whole new building. It's just the auditorium, the lecture hall,
Yeah.
that everything there is just incredible.
It's the best auditorium in town. I mean, it's just phenomenal. So, you know, and I hope that when kids put on performances, which we can expand now that we have a good facility, that the public will enjoy coming in.
And for summer use, the air conditioning is so important, because in the past, I think we only had flood.
Right, right. The air conditioning is wonderful. And they've gotten things regulated. That's been part of the punch list, is getting those temperatures regulated throughout the building. So we've made great progress on that.
I just have a couple of questions on it. Number one is, can you tell me if staffing is complete at the new school at Stratford High as far as custodians go? And my other question is about the group of students. I'm sorry, I can't recall the name of what they are. They used to be.
Oh, the Alpha program?
Okay, I remember them as SAFE students that were just recently moved into Stratford High, how that's going, and how those students are acclimating to being in the new school.
So I'll take that question first, because it is interesting. We decided that we would move them, not wait till the fall to move them once their section was completed, which was May, that we would go ahead and move them so they could get acclimated. And at first, the students were very hesitant, like they weren't sure they wanted to go to the Stratford High School. Once they got in the building, they saw the building, they were awestruck. So they're adjusting, and we will have a few adjustment issues going, but by and large, it's been a really good transition so far. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get into that program this week to be there and talk to the kids a little bit now that they've been in 2 weeks. So see how that goes.
How many students do you have in that program?
Well, we have about 30.
Wow.
I think, yeah, about 32, I think right now. Now don't hold me that number because it fluctuates, but it's about that number.
And are they all high school age students, or are they?
Yes, they're all high school.
High school. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they can't be identified as possibilities going there until they've had a time of being in the high school as a freshman and either showing that they need to be in a smaller setting or not. And they do have a separate entrance and so forth. But in terms of building efficiencies in, this is a better way to do it. So we'll go from.
And they have lunch. They have lunch with are they mainstream for lunch or gym activities or any of that?
Some things they can be mainstream for, but they also can choose not to be. So, yeah. So we're dealing with students who need to be in their smaller places. So some of them are not going to be mainstream, but yes, when they can and they want to, we can mainstream them for certain classes. And that's part of being there that we thought would work, would be that sometimes a teacher who teaches at the high school could come in and teach one class in there, or the kids could go out to classes. One of the things they haven't been able to do are things like auto shop, some of the hands-on kinds of activities, some of the art classes. They'll have access to those things now. Mm-hmm. So that's an advantage for them. Your other question in regard to custodians, Pam, you spent so much time on custodians. We have added some custodians district-wide that will be night custodians to take some of the heavy lift that our other custodians were having to carry, and also to cut down on overtime. So specifically, Pam's been dealing with the custodians, and specifically, I can't tell you what the count is of custodians over at Stratford High School. Do you happen to know, Pam?
I don't off the top of my head. Most of what we have been adjusting has dealt with the elementary level, but I will tell you that I did a facility review based on a formula, and we are definitely understaffed at Stratford High School for custodians. And it was my understanding, I think the year I arrived, that the board was hopeful to add a custodian position, and unfortunately, as they had to reduce the budget, the position was reduced. I think honestly that we have phenomenal custodial staff in this district. I do think that, you know, if you look at it and compare it to other districts, we probably could be considered maybe a little bit shy. I think we find other ways to support our custodians with part-time and, you know, other help. We have drivers/custodians that, you know, we send for a few hours a day to help out at the various schools. But I would really like to see us take a harder look at that. In a year when we're not dealing with pandemic issues, because we were fortunate enough to have the cleaning service come in this year to help out as well, even though they were really concentrating on what we called COVID cleaning at that time. But I really think that's something that we will be bringing to the board as we develop our fiscal year 23 budget. I believe I'm talking about that already, but you know, it's an ongoing process. Of course, we're always looking at the needs of the district. So I appreciate that question because there is a need there. And I do think we need to take a harder look at it.
And I have to say,
Go
during
ahead,
my
Bill.
years of at Sterling House, I had a lot of interaction with the custodians, you know, because we use the school for basketball and other things, and that brings to mind that there's always been an issue. Well, it's not issue, discussions about, you know, having to pay for the overtime on the school nights where they don't have an evening crew or on Saturdays. But it brings to mind the Bird's Eye building, which is not a school building. How did that work? Did the board get charged by the town for the use of that, or I'm not clear on how that worked?
To the best of my knowledge, Bill, the town is actually taking care of the cleaning of the Bird's Eye building and reporting it as an in-kind when we do our state report.
And then how about the actual use of it? Was there a lease agreement, or was it just you got to use it?
I think we just got to use it, but don't quote me on that one because there's still a few areas I'm catching up on, and I think that's one of them. So I will look into that.
Part of in the history, Bill, the renovations of that building went under the educational, you know, the educational funding reimbursement at the state. So the building was refurbished and renovated as an educational facility. And so 60% of it was paid by the state.
Well, that's right too. And originally it was an elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure,
Anybody
I
else
got
have any
my,
questions about the Stratford High? If not, anybody have any new business or old business?
Bill, I do. Next meeting is scheduled for June 16th, and that is graduation. So our board members and the rest of us on the education side are going to be busy that night.
I would lean at this time, if there's still interest in meeting with Jeff again for follow-up questions, maybe we just schedule a special meeting and not have the regular meeting. So we'll discuss that and decide. But we'll definitely would cancel that. Now, this will be your last graduation. You're going to run between the two?
It just doesn't work very well, but I usually the mayor goes to one high school and I go to the other. So I send an email to the mayor saying, which one would you like to go to? And I'll go to the other one. So, but yeah, I love graduation. So I'm sad about this being the last one. These kids were fourth graders when I came.
Wow, that's right.
Honorary invitation to the future ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks all. If no one has any other questions or comments, Laura, let's see. We need to recommend something for you to get better, but get some rest.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Feel better, Laura.
Take tomorrow off. If you need a doctor's note, let us know.
Sleep does help, Laura.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Laura Dan.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks all. Enjoy the weather.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.